Hi everyone, I'm Raven. Welcome back to Murder Files. Tonight we're diving into a mystery that has captivated true crime enthusiasts for decades. Imagine a series of brutal murders that gripped an entire city with fear and uncertainty. This case involves a shadowy figure whose heinous acts remain shrouded in mystery, leaving behind cryptic clues and a trail of unanswered questions. What made these crimes so chilling? Why did they remain unsolved for so long? Join us as we explore the dark and haunting world of one of America's most infamous criminal enigmas. If you love true crime and want more captivating stories, make sure to subscribe and follow us. Your support helps us bring more thrilling content to you. In the late 1960s, the United States was swept up in a wave of social and political upheaval. The Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and cultural revolutions were dominating the national consciousness. Amid this backdrop of transformation, a darker shadow emerged over the San Francisco Bay Area, a shadow that would become the stuff of nightmares. This was the story of the Zodiac Killer, one of the most notorious and unresolved serial killers in modern history. Act 1. The First Blood. The winter of 1968 was cold and quiet in Vallejo, California. This small town, with its serene streets and calm atmosphere, was a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding across the nation. On the evening of December 20th, two teenagers, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were enjoying a romantic evening in a local parking lot. Little did they know, their evening would take a horrific turn. A shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its presence an omen of impending doom. Without warning or hesitation, the figure approached the couple and unleashed a barrage of gunfire. David Faraday was struck by the bullets and died instantly. Betty Lou Jensen, in a desperate attempt to escape, fled from the car, but the killer pursued her mercilessly. Jensen's life was cut short as well, leaving behind a scene of brutal violence. This first act of terror was only the beginning. The Zodiac Killer had embarked on a series of murders that would shake the region and leave an indelible mark on history. But what drove this man to commit such heinous acts? The answer to this question lay hidden within the dark recesses of his mind, a mystery that would remain unsolved for decades to come. Act 2. The Rising Fear. As the 4th of July approached in 1969, a holiday typically filled with celebration and joy, the specter of fear loomed over Vallejo once more. On that fateful day, a young couple, Darlene Ferran and Michael Mageau, were parked in a secluded spot, sharing the warmth of the summer evening. Their tranquility was shattered when a familiar but terrifying presence reappeared. A car pulled up beside them, and the driver, emerging from the vehicle, wasted no time in launching a violent attack. The Zodiac Killer, armed with a gun, fired indiscriminately at the couple. Darlene Ferran was killed instantly, while Michael Mageau was left critically injured but miraculously survived. His testimony would become a crucial piece of evidence in the investigation. Yet it would not be enough to bring the killer to justice. The terror inflicted by the Zodiac Killer had now reached new heights. His presence was no longer confined to isolated areas, but had begun to seep into the heart of the community. The once safe and familiar surroundings were now shrouded in fear, as people questioned whether they were next. Act 3. The Deadly Game with the Media. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror was not limited to physical violence. He also engaged in a psychological game with the media. On August 1st, 1969, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald received a series of chilling letters from the Zodiac himself. In these letters, the Zodiac Killer made it clear that he relished the fear he instilled in others. He described his crimes in detail and taunted the authorities, challenging them to catch him. The letters were filled with cryptic ciphers that seemed to hold clues to his identity. The Zodiac claimed that solving these ciphers would reveal his true self, adding another layer of mystery to his already enigmatic persona. The first cipher was eventually cracked by amateur codebreakers, revealing a disturbing message that showcased the killer's twisted satisfaction with his deeds. Yet many of the ciphers remained unsolved, their secrets locked away behind a veil of cryptic symbols. The Zodiac Killer's manipulation of the media and his game of cat and mouse created a sense of dread that gripped the entire region. Act 4. The Horror at Lake Berryessa. On a cool autumn day, September 27, 1969, Lake Berryessa was meant to be a serene escape from the bustle of everyday life. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a peaceful afternoon by the lake. Their calm day, however, was about to be turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. The Zodiac Killer approached them, this time armed with a knife instead of a gun. He bound their hands and feet and proceeded to carve his symbol into their clothing. With a chilling detachment, he inflicted fatal wounds on the couple. Cecilia Shepard succumbed to her injuries, but Brian Hartnell survived, giving a detailed description of the Zodiac Killer to the police. Following this brutal attack, Zodiac made a phone call to the police from a nearby payphone, proudly claiming responsibility for the murder. His confidence and ability to evade capture demonstrated his frightening level of control over the situation. Act 5. The Taxi Driver's Final Fare. On October 11, 1969, in the bustling streets of San Francisco, Paul Stein, a taxi driver, was unknowingly about to become the Zodiac Killer's next victim. During a routine fare, Stein picked up a passenger who would turn out to be his killer. In a shocking act of violence, Zodiac shot Stein in the head, ending his life instantly. What made this murder particularly alarming was Zodiac's audacity in leaving behind a piece of Stein's bloodstained shirt as evidence. He mailed it along with a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle, further taunting the police and the public. This act of brazen cruelty emphasized the Zodiac's disdain for law enforcement and his desire to keep his crimes in the spotlight. The murder sent shockwaves through the city, intensifying the fear that already gripped San Francisco. Citizens became increasingly wary, and taxi drivers in particular were left on edge, wondering if they might be the next target. Act 6. The Vanishing Act. As the 1970s progressed, the Zodiac Killer's reign of terror suddenly came to an abrupt halt. His last known letter was sent in 1974, after which he vanished without a trace. This sudden disappearance led to widespread speculation about his fate. Had he died? Had he retired from his life of crime? Or was he hiding, waiting for the right moment to strike again? Despite numerous investigations and numerous suspects being examined over the years, the identity of the Zodiac Killer remained elusive. One of the most prominent suspects, Arthur Lee Allen, was investigated extensively, but DNA testing in 2002 ruled him out as the killer. Final act, the revelation. After 54 years of mystery and speculation, the case of the Zodiac Killer, one of the most notorious and elusive criminals in history, saw a dramatic turn. In a surprising development, the Zodiac Killer re-emerged from the shadows, not in person, but through a significant revelation made by a group of determined investigators. In recent years, a team of former FBI agents and retired police officers, collectively known as the Case Breakers, embarked on a thorough investigation to solve the Zodiac Killer case. Their tireless efforts and exhaustive research led them to a groundbreaking conclusion. The Zodiac Killer was identified as Gary Francis Post, who passed away in 2018. Gary Francis Post, a convicted criminal with a history of violent offenses, had eluded authorities for decades. The Case Breakers' investigation uncovered compelling evidence linking Post to the Zodiac Killer's crimes, including new forensic analysis and previously overlooked details that tied him to the notorious murders. The revelation of Post's identity brought a mixture of shock and closure to a case that had long remained unresolved. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror, which had left Northern California in a state of fear and uncertainty, was finally given a name. The Case Breakers' discovery marked a significant milestone in the pursuit of justice and provided a sense of resolution for the victims' families and the public. While the identification of Gary Francis Post as the Zodiac Killer did not bring back the lost years or undo the terror inflicted, it offered a crucial piece of the puzzle that had eluded investigators for over half a century. The final act of this haunting story underscores the relentless pursuit of truth and the impact of dedicated investigators in solving even the most complex and enduring mysteries. Now please follow us as we lift the curtain on the next murder and take a look through that keyhole together.